But now to shift gears here and go back to what we're seeing at the Impact Conference, of course, I'd now like to welcome in John O'Connell, founder and chief executive officer of the Oasis Group and the author of Rise of the Activist Investor. So thank you so much for being here today. Your book argues really, though, activism is not just for billionaires. So what's really the first step you can take as a retail investor to have real influence on a company?
So my book, The Rise of the Activist Investor, actually walks through those steps that you can take. The first one would be to really find companies that reflect your values and that you'd like to invest in. The second would be to really engage like-minded folks who want to who share your values and want to basically influence the direction of a company. And then the third would really be to register yourselves as a wolf pack, get a certain level of ownership, and then you actually can vote to put someone on the board of directors. So I actually created an activist investor arc as part of the book, which walks through all those steps.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Can you explain that activist and investor arc? And we're next gen, right? Gen Z, millennials. Where do we often come in on that arc, and how do we progress along it?
So normally what you'd find is younger investors are going to start on that arc pretty early on if you look at the entire arc. The first steps of that are finding like-minded individuals that share your values and really care about a company. There's tons of online capabilities that you have. Many of these investor groups, you can find them on Discord or Reddit. Those were a lot of the areas that you'll find those types of groups. You can find like-minded individuals, get together, start discussing the direction of a company and the direction you'd like to see that company move in, and then realize that the chief executive officer really does execute on the plans of the board of directors. If you want to change the way a company is moving, if you want to change the direction of a firm, you can put people on the board of directors by having a certain percentage of ownership. You can actually ask for someone to be nominated for the board of directors. You can vote for that person on the board of directors, and you can move that agenda forward and change the direction of the company. Like I said a moment ago, most investors start on the younger side of things. They're finding those like-minded individuals. They're investing in the company directly. They're beginning to become more active in discussing the company's direction, the direction of the company, the financials of the company, and the direction they'd like to see the company go in. And then as they start moving up that arc, ultimately they get to a point where they're actually putting together a proxy to name someone on their board of directors.
Okay, so the meme stock phenomenon showed the power of collective action. How do you see the role of activism evolving in the next decade or maybe even more midterm?
So if you take a look at some of the examples we have there, look at AMC, for example, right? The financials for AMC were not doing very, very well. AMC did have a lot of investors that started, retail investors that were buying the stock to try to prop up the stock price and change the direction of the company, which ultimately enabled the company to lower their overall debt to equity ratio. So the power does exist in retail investors. If you take a look at some of the trends, retail investors now own more shares than institutional investors of many of the firms that are on the NASDAQ and on NICE. So the power really does live in the hands of the retail investors. Retail investors can start to become activist investors by buying up shares of companies that they care about, finding those like-minded individuals, and then causing them to change the direction of the company. So AMC was a good example of that. Many of the meme stocks, some of those meme stocks started out where people were propping up those stock prices by buying into them, but that was really driven entirely by retail investors. So they do have that power.
John, your work in the Oasis Group is known for kind of its exploring AI and wealth technology. How do you see some of those AI breakthroughs changing the landscape, not only for next-gen investors like our viewers, but those who are embarking upon activist campaigns as well?
So think about the power of AI today in the hands of a retail investor who understands how to leverage artificial intelligence. You could literally run without having some of the real-time pricing, but you can run almost a certified financial analyst, a CFA level analysis using artificial intelligence. It understands what a CFA is, it understands how to do that analysis, and by being able to download publicly available information like 10Ks and 10Qs, you can run that analysis now on your own. So if you want to move into activist investing and there's a company you truly believe in, and you want to be able to do that type of analysis, whether it's a fundamental analysis or momentum-based analysis, all that power now exists for you within artificial intelligence. You no longer need to master spreadsheets and deep formulas to be able to do that type of analysis. So what we see happening today for next generation investors is they are leveraging artificial intelligence not only to do analysis on companies, but to generate life financial plans for themselves. For example, debt management plans or financial, just long-term retail-based financial planning. We're seeing some retail investors that don't have an ability to work with a financial advisor yet to start create their own financial plans and manage their investments in that way. In the activist investing space, certainly if you want to be able to look at momentum-based pricing, artificial intelligence can be a huge opportunity for you. Also, if you're an activist investor that's also tracking the work of other more established activist investors, for example, if you're a retail activist investor and you want to know where other activist investors are making investments in companies and being able to build a sizable enough share to be able to do a proxy and change the board of directors, you can find all that information today. It's readily available, it's public information. AI can definitely do deep research for you on that using tools like Perplexity or Claude to be able to do that kind of research and then enable, basically educate yourself on how that company's doing and where some other activist investors are making their bets.
Okay, so what are the biggest opportunities and, of course, risks that you see as technology and investing, frankly, continues to converge?
So what you're seeing today is, AI is going to significantly change the wealth management space, and it's going to change the investing space. Next-gen investors have power in their hands using artificial intelligence that you normally would not see unless you're in an institutional setting. So for any of your viewers that want to get into either activist investing, please take a look at the book. If you really want to begin managing your own investments much more closely and you want to do some really deep analysis on the holdings that you currently have, or if you're considering investing in new holdings and you want to do some of that analysis, by all means, take a look at some of the prompts that are out there for artificial intelligence today. You have the power in your hands that 5 years ago would have taken you really a college degree and a lot of Excel to be able to work through. You now have some of that capability just at your fingertips. So if you're a next-gen investor and really want to play a part in this, by all means, start getting educated on the use of artificial intelligence. It will absolutely put you at par for where you'd like to go, and it will give you capabilities that you normally would not be able to get if you weren't working with a financial advisor or institution.
Okay, and I love that. I think that's such a positive way to frame the overall narrative, as we've seen. I mean, just so much fear around it still. I think the fear of the unknown, but I think framing it in such a positive way as more of a tool rather than maybe working against you is so critical. So we so appreciate your time and really wonderful insight today. John O'Connell, founder and chief executive officer of the Oasis Group and the author of Rise of the Activist Investor.